And that's where Blink came in. So we worked on a big project with Morten and his team, and that's what we do at Blink. We love partnering with ambitious clients on ambitious projects, and this is usually the grid of logos we like to kind of show to talk about, some of our really exciting clients doing some tools for scientists at NASA, doing plenty of work with Amazon and Microsoft, being headquartered in Seattle. But this is another grid of company logos that I think is really interesting, right? This is a showcase of a lot of our enterprise clients. And I think in general, from our point of view, enterprise doesn't get a lot of that design love, historically. And so we're really excited about working with these type of clients because the problems are very interesting and specific, and they have the potential to impact thousands, perhaps millions of people in the lives they have at their work. And so Stibo is one of those clients that was really terrific to collaborate with on this project to provide Stibo a design system and a design vision for their suite of products. All right, so the big reveal. So we worked with Morten and his team for 4 months and created the instrument design system, which is a fairly thorough design system with various guidelines and key screens and principles. One of the big things that we did was called table zoom. So if you think of that table experience I was talking about with Excel, we created this experience that I'm going to walk through in this showcase motion piece. So really thinking of how, with Morten and his team, having a user journey-based approach to solving these problems as opposed to cherry-picking certain features. So this journey starts with someone logging in. They've got these different groupings of tasks that they need to complete, and they can jump right into any individual task, but then you also have this zoom slider up there that lets you kind of see different levels of information. And so part of the design of this zoom table was, what does that happen when you notch down and you're in that big, thick list of tasks to complete now? This is maybe the work that you need to do today. You can peek it open, not maybe fully open. You can maybe edit some things there, get some context for maybe some other edits that you need to do elsewhere within the product. And then, basic sort of Excel functionality. And really, what's the fit and finish and the visual design for all of this as well. And you can see we worked with the motion designer to put it all together as well. The next level down, all those items are sort of in that peak mode, so you can really kind of robustly see a lot of the work. And then at that bottom level of the table zoom, you're in the product. And so any individual product has just a lot of potential data. So being able to figure out the visual composition, the hierarchy, how could you have different, the secondary navigation here, you're on the overview for this polo shirt, but you can have attributes and even tertiary navigation within that. So really thinking the UX shell model and the information hierarchy. And then here in this motion piece, we just zoom back out to go back to that top level of seeing the different collections of items that you are to work on. So it was really fun, working with this and kind of developing this high fidelity motion piece to give Morten and his team a vision. So yeah, like a lot of the work was really grounded in principles. I'm not going to go through all of these, but having really robust UX principles and working those throughout and stress testing those out in the design was a big part of it. And ultimately ending in thorough guidelines, documentation, annotations, so that Morten and his team could really kind of bring it to life after our engagement was over. And throughout the process, something like this is the final fidelity, but we're working in various low fidelity sketches throughout the project. So these are a lot of our interaction, our UX ideas start at this fidelity. And then on the visual side, working with Morten and his team to establish a mood board to like what's the vision, what's the look and feel, what's the personality that we want this product suite to have. And the result was this instrument design language. So this is what we call style tile, which is kind of pulls out different pieces of the UI elements. Very crisp, felt very ownable, and something that they could adopt across their product suite. A couple of visual principles that we had. Contrast is king. So you saw in the current legacy product, it's very flat, white, light gray. So we thought we could introduce a really strong black and white contrast story to way to give information and clear wayfinding to the user. And even beyond that, how can we use color more purposefully in this product? So the whites, the blacks or the dark grays. Orange is Stibo's brand color, so how could that play a role? And then semantic colors like green, red, yellow. We worked with Noto, which is a typeface open source font from Google, which is a really great UI typeface. So thinking of those tables and numbers and small type, being able to have a robust typeface that could work in that scenario was really great. They have a serif pairing. It also has great language support. So Stibo's products operate in countries with non-Latin languages. So Noto was a really good option for that. I think that the content density part in this is critical, right? I think in a lot of consumer projects, it's like, all right, how can you have white space, give them that elegant design? But when you're in these productivity work scenarios, users do not want to compromise on content density. They're professionals, they can handle it. So how can we find elegant ways to really embrace that content density? That was a really key part of the product. So yeah, a couple points here. The approach we had was a Trojan horse approach. Which really, the opposite of that is, to boil the ocean, right? To take this idea and like, all right, let's design a system that is, day one implementable for all of Stibo products. That project is impossible, or it takes 10 years and it falls apart, right? Just that idea of kind of trying to boil the ocean. You're gonna get knocked over by a big wave if you try to do that. I'm glad that got a laugh. So yeah, Stibo Systems has a broad suite of data management products. So we made an effort not to try to do a robust audit of all of them. That itself would take 4 months. So how can we pick one product? We picked their product master data management product and look specifically at that. And even within that, not trying to take that whole breadth of the product, but really identify a key user journey within that and figure out what are those key screens and those key experiences that make up potentially 80% of what people are doing in that product. So essentially, worked with Morten and his team to put blinders on Blink and be able to focus on a smaller subset of the product, given the time that we had together. And the goal ultimately is to take that and then inform that back into the broader suite of products and have the success and the design vision of those things be able to disseminate to the other products until eventually you have a unified system-driven suite of products. And so that's sort of the Trojan horse approach of the way that we built the project together, working with Morten and his team. So I was just talking with Patty, distributed teams are the new normal, right? This is probably not news to anyone here. So this is a map of where Blink is. We're based in Boston, but our leadership and our project management teams are based in Seattle. And then for this project, we worked with the interaction designer in San Diego. And then on the Stibo side, Morten and his design team are based in Aarhus. One of the key stakeholders was in London, and then other Stibo folks in Los Angeles and Atlanta. So how do we do a project like this when we're spread across 2 continents? We use these tools, right? Like just really being efficient at using a lot of these tools that allow us to be in different places at different times. So specifically, we love having a bi-weekly cadence, having that formal design review every week and a sync meeting as well. Video calls are really important in actually making people participate in them, making them turn on their camera. Little things like that can go a long way when you have a distributed team. Steady communication on Slack, build that Slack muscle. That is really key when you have a team spread out like this. And then how do you leverage that lengthened workday to your benefit, right? Like I would get into work at 9 a.m. Morten had pretty much done a whole day of work. So he was able to answer all the questions I had the previous day. And then I'm able to kind of absorb that, give feedback to my team. And then the West Coast Blink people would come in and they would have feedback from me. So I think there's advantages to having that lengthened workday. And there's certainly companies that set up different locations for that benefit. But at the same time, there's no replacement for in-person interaction. So being able to meet up for a foundational workshop in Atlanta with stakeholders and then traveling out to Aarhus for these working sessions, which was great. I don't recommend January. It's not the best time to be in Denmark. It was pretty dark, but that meant we were getting work done in conference rooms. And then, yeah, Morten's got a few points here.
Yeah, so the outcome or the partnership we got from Blink, there was a lot of things that I think we got out of it. One of the key things was actually gaining the momentum. So when we started, we didn't have any kind of dedicated project resources for the project. And we didn't have the capacity to take up because everybody was kind of allocated to the existing product lines. So what do? Since we brought you in, that kind of gave us momentum and attention on that. Most importantly, it kind of provoked us to rethink, ask all the whys. So some of the concepts that we saw was kind of maybe a little bit too much, but it was kind of still enough to kind of trigger a lot of questions and a lot of ideas. It's been very valuable to work with after that. And importantly, it also helped us visioning the end state. So having these high fidelity mockups was some of the kind of things that helped us internally argument about the kind of the need for UX, because now we had something we could quickly show off. So this is how things could be. That was very helpful in giving us as a design team the priority that we needed. There's an ugly problem, you might know it, with enterprise software, and that is when UX often is just kind of an afterthought of that. So many of the kind of enterprise products are getting heavily configured to meet their customer needs. As most companies want to do the best for their customers, they kind of take in all the requirements from different users and different customers. So they might kind of add one feature set for one customer and one client, and another feature set for another one. And kind of while that may end up give you as a client kind of additional features for free, it also may end up kind of being this experience patchwork that Ben mentioned before. I've seen solutions that look quite a lot like this.
Right, this is Stibo's product.
But as a user, you may end up having a lot of features that you don't really use. And as a vendor, it kind of also gives you some challenges in maintaining these products, because what is it really that your users are using? What should you prioritize in the future? Which direction should you take, and so on?
This is a real thing too, right? It's very expensive.
It is. I think you can buy it for about $2,000 if you're interested.
But you couldn't put that in your pocket, even if it's closed.
So that might just kind of be our application that looks like yours. Look like that. I don't know about yours. You might have something that is way more smooth. But in case it shouldn't be, and in case you can recognize this, you would definitely not be the first one that is in that type of situations. You kind of recognize that, okay, we have an issue, and you also want to do something about it. The big thing is, so what do you do? And having this kind of clean sheet approach to it is actually not that easy to take. When you kind of need to kind of rethink your product, this is some of the things that the kind of the business often asking about. So we want to have the same features as the existing product. That's always a very hateful way to start. And you need to make it look just a little bit more pretty. It needs to be more contemporary. Of course, intuitive and easy to use. That's kind of a given. And one of my favorites is that when somebody tells me that, oh, I wanted to look something like Slack, for example. Can you add a bit of that to the new design? I think this Dilbot actually tells it all, because, well, Dilbot is asked to kind of create this product with hundreds of features and realize that nobody would actually be able to deal with that. And then, well, easy to use is added as the last thing on the list. But what the user wants in the end is basically something that makes them more efficient, that doesn't add any kind of cognitive stress, and that is just kind of feeling intuitive and give them a good flow in what they're doing.